Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Do you remember the television show Doomsday Preppers? And they used to look over 5 areas of preparedness and evaluate how prepared different people were. They evaluated the areas of food, water, shelter, security, and an X factor or something special or a skill that you had that made your prepping unique. If you look over the last year, we've had a pandemic, we've had extremely hot weather, snowstorms, power outages, just crazy things going on in the world, along with political turmoil and even violence in the cities. You may have thought Doomsday Preppers is entertainment, but maybe now we need to evaluate how prepared are we. It doesn't need to be for doomsday. We've encountered so many challenges in the last year that it's important that we actually look over these areas and decide for ourselves, am I prepared to the best of my ability? The first category is food. We need to have at least 2,000 calories per person per day, and you need to decide how many days do you want to have food readily available. Then the recent power outages have shown us we may not be able to cook, boil beans and rice, or even prepare something as simple as macaroni and cheese. Do you have foods that you can open and eat that don't have to be heated? Do you have a camp stove or some alternative way to prepare food if you can't use the electricity in your home? Then do you have a way to resupply food, like a garden? Do you have a way to can and preserve foods that you have on your own? Drawn out power outages we just had from winter storms, you may have lost all of the food in your refrigerator and your freezer. Even if you had a generator, did you have enough fuel to run it for 10 days, 2 weeks, or maybe even longer? There are a lot of challenges that we just have had to face that maybe many of us never have before. Next, look at the area of water. Do you have water stored at least 1 gallon per person per day for many days? Water is heavy, takes up a lot of space, and people tend to not have the amount of water that they really could depend on having for just drinking, food preparation, sanitation. There are so many ways. If you look at throughout the day how many gallons of water you use, you'd probably be shocked if you then had to only use your 1 gallon per person per day for an extended period of time. If you've ever had a shortage or an outage, you understand how critical it is and how comforting it is that you have some supplies on hand. Then you need to have a way to resupply water. Is there a well, a creek, a river, a lake somewhere nearby that you could get more water if you needed to? Do you have a way to filter and purify any extra water you could get? What if you still have running water in your home, but you go under a boil alert? Do you have a way that you can filter water so you don't have to worry about trying to boil it? Can you imagine if your power is out and now you have to figure out how to boil water when you don't even have a way to heat food? You're compounding the misery that you could have prepared for ahead of time. We want to do the best we can to provide the lifestyle that we're used to. That's what prepping is. It's lifestyle insurance, trying to make sure that we can continue to live as close to normal as possible for as long of our lives as we can. Next, look at the category of shelter. How safe is your city, your town, your location where you live? How secure is your home? Have you hardened your home? Do you have extra security devices such as outside lighting, maybe an alarm, strong locks on your windows and doors? Do you have a way that you can feel secure in your home? Then you also need to consider, what if your home is damaged from a storm? Do you have a way to re-secure your home? Do you have something to board up windows if they're blown out in a hurricane? Do you have a tarp to put over your roof? Should a winter storm send a branch crashing through your roof? Do you have things like sandbags if you live in an area that might flood? If you live in an area like I do, where earthquakes are a problem, do you have things like tall bookshelves secured to the wall? Have you set aside things that are tall and fragile, could fall over and break? Have you made sure that those things are secured in some way? or put away so that they aren't going to cause a problem and more damage that could make your life harder, more dangerous, and put your safety at risk. Power has been a huge concern through these last rounds of storms we've had. Do you have some way to keep the power on in your home, like a generator? Do you have some way to keep your home warm in the winter? Maybe you have a wood stove and you can have extra wood. But I think probably 80% of America doesn't even have that capability. Do you have some kind of a space heater? Do you have extra blankets and sleeping bags? Do you have even a tent you could set up in one room in your home? Your family could gather in the tent and you take up less space and your body heat helps keep you warmer. Plus you can have then one little solar light, one little flashlight, one little lantern. You need to have thought about these things, because if all of a sudden the power goes out, it's too late to figure out, what am I going to do now? Think about the things that you do throughout the day. How do you heat your home? How do you light your home? How do you prepare your food? And those are the things that you want to figure out an alternative. Think of a way to have a solution so that you can face those challenges. Simple battery banks can be a way to keep your electronics charged up. Maybe you want to have a portable solar panel, or even, I found this year, a small portable solar charger, which can be just put in the window. It can charge up and I can resupply the power to my electronics as needed. They even are making solar generators, which I haven't got one, I haven't tried that, but they're getting a lot of great reviews. So if you have the funds available for something like that, perhaps it's worth the investment. In the meantime, you can look at smaller items, lanterns, radios, gadgets that can help make your day-to-day life more bearable. If you can have a few of those things that are not very expensive but can help smooth the way in an emergency situation. We've spent the last year quarantining at home, but a lot of people have still had to face the emergency of having to bug out and leave their home. Look at the huge forest fires that we had in the western states. Many people were forced from their homes and had to evacuate. There are people who's lost all the power in their homes in terribly cold, freezing weather and were forced out of their home, seeking a warming center or a safe location. Have an idea of where you could go if it's no longer safe to occupy your home. These things happen. Don't say to yourself, I'm never going to leave my home. What if there's an earthquake and your house falls down? What if a tornado flattens your neighborhood? There are all kinds of disasters that come on in an instant and make your home no longer inhabitable. Don't be standing out there wondering, now what do I do? You should have already thought about it in your mind so that you're not caught off guard and you're not going to panic in a crisis situation. You've thought about what you can do. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it bearable and survivable, and it makes your life go more steadily and smoothly because you already have thought about what you can do, and you can put your plan into action and then figure out what to do next. We need to think about security, not only of hardening our home and making sure that we're living in as safe a neighborhood as possible, but you need to also be concerned with how to provide the safety and security to yourself. Crime is on the rise. It's a terrible fact, but it's the truth. You need to have some idea of how you can protect yourself if you need to. Learn what the laws are for safety and security items that you may want to have in your area, and make sure that you are following those regulations so that you don't end up on the wrong side of the law. Then whatever you decide for personal protection, make sure that you are trained, you know how to use it safely, you also know how to keep it secure so that those who should not have access won't. Then think about the X factor. Do you have a network of people that you can trust and count on, depend on each other? Do you have special medical skills that you would know how to render first aid, that you could take care of yourselves in some kind of a medical emergency? Maybe you have some cool kind of a bug out vehicle, or you have extra training that other people might find very useful that they don't have the ability to do for themselves. Look over the skills that you have, the interests that you have, the things that you know and you're able to provide, because that's how you're going to make the best of any situation, is the more creative you can be figuring out how to deal with what's given to you and what you're going to do next. Think about these areas and maybe rate yourself and see what kind of a score you give yourself as a doomsday prepper, even if it's just an everyday prepper, providing for your family the things that you need on a day-to-day basis, no matter what the day brings. If you liked my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might enjoy it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.